Okay, we're live again. I'd like you to share with me a little bit about what you think AI is going to do. Nobody is really talking about the 50% unemployment coming. They're talking about immigration and not enough people. And I am reading about UBI on New York Times. Responses to an article was all about UBI, but nobody seems to be taking it seriously. And when that all hits us, what do you think might be the result?
Well, you have to think about time frame. Time frame is key for how the government's going to react to any kind of disruption within the labor force. So, if we're looking at a 5 year timeline and up to, I'd say 50% is a little too high of a disruption, the government usually reacts within about a 20 to 30% unemployment rate. Now, the problem is that the government has not been very honest about its employment numbers, especially within this administration, not to say anything of the last one. So it's really hard to say what the actual unemployment is currently. Um, but I think reality will speak for itself within the coming years.
Tell me about your thoughts about UBI. If it became a platform for the Democratic Socialist Party, would it resonate
Okay,
with unemployment at, say, maybe 25%?
there are two questions in there. One is the feasibility of UBI as a concept, and if we look at the numbers, it doesn't add up as a concept in general. There's just not enough money to give anybody a stipend of like $2,000 a month. You can't tax your way out of this. There will have to be alternatives, say perhaps universal basic services that compensate, for people's needs. But the system of deliberately like doling out money is not going to be the solution to the problem. As far as the DSA goes, the DSA is a fringe party that has no real institutional power, and it's really going to come down to the mainline parties to actually change, which they will refuse to do, and they will continue to bury their heads in the sand as though nothing is going on. And they will continue just to perpetuate themselves as faceless bureaucracies that proclaim to have the interest of the people at heart, but in fact do absolutely nothing.
You know, the one thing that nobody seems to be talking about is what happens when unemployment hits 25% and unemployment benefits run out and nobody's offering any solution to all the defaults on mortgages, car loans, this rapid expansion of homelessness. Are we getting to the point where the Trump administration is trying to get us desensitized to the idea of American military and police forces shooting their own citizens?
I think, again, you've wrapped a couple questions within one. Uh, I don't think that nobody's going to come to save the populace at large in the United States. Nobody's coming to save them. They will be forced to fend for themselves. We will be desensitized to them just existing, and there will be just new classes of people that we will have new names for, because nobody's going to bail these people out. And will the United States military become a huge part of people's lives in maintaining order? Probably not. If we look at the case studies in other developing countries, this is not the case. You just have the development of informal economies that are just not on the books, that elude the tax man. You can have high degrees of functionality even within dysfunctional states.
Okay, so in your experience, what South American country, a country in the American continent, is going to reach the kind of unemployment that we're going to have in the United States? Because the United States is going to adapt AI sooner than these other countries in terms of job replacement. So we'll see the effects sooner. Can you give me any examples of a South American country that maybe had 25 or 30% unemployment and how the governments responded?
There are plenty of countries in South America that have 20 and 30% unemployment, and the government does not do anything. Because the government's not there for the people. The government's there to serve the elites and the elites alone. These countries were set up as extraction colonies. They were not set up as democratic institutions to serve the people, and they have done little in regards to developing their democratic institutions over the 20th century. So you can have high degrees of unemployment, 20 and 30%, and governments don't respond because they don't care, and they never have. What happens is you develop informal economies, and people develop informal methods of doing things like distributing credit, of procuring a debt to start businesses. You have a variety of different things in these South American countries, informal solutions for financial problems.
Let me ask you this. How are these countries feeding themselves and housing themselves if you have unemployment in the 25 or 30% range and these people have no income, so they've got no money? How do they feed themselves and house themselves without stealing?
Well, a lot of these countries are very agrarian still, so a lot of these populations
Yes,
feed
but the
themselves.
U.S. is not agrarian.
That's-
We're very, very urban.
Well, that's going to be a very large problem now, isn't it?
Well, that's what I was asking you about. Because what you basically just said to me is there are not any really good examples in these agrarian societies with high unemployment that are going to equate to what we're going to see with high urban unemployment in the United States. Tell me, in your estimation, 5 years from now, what the level of unemployment will be among white-collar workers.
Nobody can tell the future, but if I were to estimate it, I would say it'll be upwards of 30%.
30%. Let's go back.
I mean, are you referring strictly to white-collar work in general, or as a part of the entire unemployment as a whole within the country?
Okay. So we have the midterms coming up in a year from now, and then the general election coming up after that. Can you give me an idea what you think the central theme of the Democratic Party is going to be for the midterms and then again for the general election coming up?
I have no idea because I don't try to understand or scrutinize the minds of feckless bureaucrats.
So you're telling me that if you thought about it and you wanted to recommend what would be the most important issues, because you think about these things, what would you say would be the most important issue coming up in the general election 4 years from now that will help people decide how they want to vote?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I don't indulge in stuff like that. Because why? And I'll tell you why. Because the way that they're going to run it on a platform is not going to be reflective of the actual needs of the people. They will come up with some sloganeering or some campaign, but it will not be actually reflective of the needs of the people. It'll be just enough to get them reelected to perpetuate themselves in the long term. It will not be something, there will be no issue that will be championed as some kind of life-changing thing. Like, nobody's going to be campaigning on universal basic income. Nobody's going to be campaigning on universal basic services. This goes against the entire ethos of the political economy of the United States. Nobody's going to be campaigning on giving out free money. Nobody has successfully.
Well, we know the Democratic Socialist Party will be campaigning.
As I have
that.
stated previously.
And they just elected a governor to the largest city in the United States in terms of importance.
New York is an exception politically to the majority.
To Chicago? I would think they're very similar to Chicago.
No, they are not. Chicago has a pretty unique system of electoral politics that is not comparable to New York.